Hey everybody, welcome back to the Winterpeg Report. I am your host, Mark Adam, here at the WPG Magazine. Thank you very much to the magazine for putting... I run the magazine. I made it do this. So that's fine. I would like it if you followed us on all our socials. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. We're also on Twitch and TikTok. Follow us there. There's no content on the TikTok yet. That's coming. But do like and follow so you get all that when we start doing stuff. And we also have this cool thing where you can text us or call us on the WPG talk line. Let us know what you think and leave a voicemail if we can use it on future episodes, blah, blah, blah. So call 431-800-4555. You can also reach us by email, podcasts@thewpg.ca. If you're looking to advertise on the site or on the Winterpeg Report or any of the other content that we create, then you can call 431-489-2401 or email ads@thewpg.ca. And again, when you look at all our socials, everywhere you go, it's the WPG Magazine, whether that's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, whatever, YouTube. It's all / or at the WPG Magazine, just so you know. Now, I am very happy to introduce our guest this week. This guy is part of, well, actually, I met him at Winnipeg Comic-Con, actually, and he makes some very cool stuff. I'm going to let him tell you more about what he makes, but this is Mr. James Firby of Firby Creations. Welcome.
Hello, thank you.
So, as I said, you make some very cool stuff. I love all the really cool things that you make, and we're going to show the people what that is. But I wanted to, why don't you describe exactly what Firby Creations is and does, and then we'll dive in.
Sure. Firby Creations is basically just myself and my wife doing some home crafts, mostly leatherwork, a little bit of carpentry, although we hope to expand with whatever we like to make. But I started off making leather journals and have gone into making other leather products, pouches, dice trays, belt pouches. Yeah, just anything with a steampunk, fantasy, role-playing game, tabletop D&D style. In a nutshell, was that clear? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I get it. That's so actually, and just to illustrate, let's have a quick look. This is one of the things you've made. Describe this. This is your dragon book.
This was one of my latest creations. Yeah, it's a leather bound journal, 360 pages, and yeah, I do all the tooling, the dyeing, and binding, the riveting. Yeah, and that one was made just before Winnipeg Comic-Con and sold on the second day.
Nice. So we're going to show some stuff that you can't get today.
Not at the moment. I do have one more that I'm making at the moment. I'm probably going to try a couple more, maybe do some different colors as well. But yeah, it's always nice to see when you make something and you're proud of it that it sells. But it's also bittersweet. Like, it sold on the second day, and I'm like, oh no, now I can't show it off. Like, it won't be standing there as a showpiece to drag more people to my table. So.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. And you do so many other cool things, like this little, I'm assuming that's a dice pouch.
I use it for dice when I'm playing D&D, but I mean, it's a pouch. Whatever fits in it will go in. So I've made certain projects that we make these little wire holders that are made for bundling up your headphones or your phone charge cables so they don't get all tangled. And a gentleman came up and asked if he could just use that as a ring, and I'm like, if it fits your finger, I'm not going to tell you no.
Use it however you see fit. Yeah
I mean, if you got long hair, tie your hair back with it. It's up to you. Like,
yeah, no, I mean, like, and I'm a D&D guy as well. I played Dungeons & Dragons, and I have a dice bag that came with the dice set, but I don't have anything nearly as cool as this leather bound stuff. Like, look at this one, this Kraken Like if you go to furby-creations.square.site, you can see, and I say it out loud for the people listening to the audio version of the podcast. So furby-creations.square.site, or you can check out his Instagram, which is Furby_creations. So
there's far too much punctuation.
Yes, and Furby, of course, being Firby, right?
Yes.
And I'm not going to tell you how to spell creations, otherwise that's a scathing review of what your teacher should have taught you. But I mean, you got really cool like wrist brace and bracers and stuff, and like the sky. Where'd the Skyrim book go? Back here somewhere. There it is. That's so cool. And I noticed a lot of people eyeing that at Comic-Con. So.
Yeah, we make those ones. That one is the album-sized one, so it's a bit larger, like 11 by 17. No, that's when it's opened. It's pretty big.
Yeah, it's
we make a
huge.
smaller notebook one, which is usually easier to fit inside somebody's budget.
Yeah, and I mean, are you on TikTok?
No, I'm not on TikTok.
No, okay, but
no, I'm still trying to just keep a regular Instagram posting to keep the business alive. But social media takes up too much time.
Oh, I more meant like, do you use TikTok? Do you like scroll through TikTok?
Well, I've seen a few videos, but that's about it.
Yeah, there's one in particular that goes around, and it goes it costs that much because it takes me fucking hours, right? So I feel very strongly that your products are like they look like they take time. They're very detailed, and they're very they look durable. Like they're not something where some dude made them and you pick it up and open it 3 times and the pages fall out. Like they look sturdy. They feel substantial. And I was lucky enough to hold some of those things in my hand at Winnipeg Comic-Con, so that was pretty cool. But can you speak to how long it actually takes to make like one book?
Well, it always depends, but like the simplest ones I have would probably be something like this, which is just I buy the leather. This was already pre-stained. Like this is how the leather came. All I have to do is cut it, fold the pages, punch the holes, and bind it. That would probably take me a few hours. I usually do them in batches. So I'll punch the holes on all of the paper. I'll punch the holes on 5 or 6 pieces of leather, and then I'll just sit in front of the TV sewing them for the rest of the evening.
Yeah, and it's like everything's handmade, eh? Like just
yes,
so cool.
Yeah,
like it's so cool.
I've got this is like an undyed piece of leather that I've been working on to make into one of the album-sized books. I don't know if that's.
I think because you have your background set to blur.
Focus.
Well, you have your background set to blur and it doesn't recognize a face, so I think it just blurs it.
Just do that on that.
That's all right.
So this took this is actually on a time lapse on the Instagram of just stamping one side of this, and it that took me like at least 2 days just because my wrists were going to give out.
Yeah, and even as I said, like follow the man on Instagram, the man and the lady, because it's a 2-man team. Even though, as far as I have observed, you're sort of the face. You were the man standing behind the booth at Comic-Con. You're joining us here on the podcast, but it is a 2-person operation.
Yeah, I'm usually the one running the cons. Just my wife is staying home with the kids, but when she can, she'll come out and help out there. She does a lot of the wand making. We have like wizarding wands, big Harry Potter inspiration. So she does a lot of the wand making. I do the leather work. Yeah.
And so, I did forget about that because we didn't have a photo that we brought up on the screen. Not that helps the audio podcast people anyway, but yeah, the wands you had, some of them were pretty elaborate and detailed and like very cool. So how long would it take her to make like one wand?
Well, again, it's usually more efficient if we just make them in batches, but her process, as I remember it, and I'm probably missing a few steps, is like most of it is just found wood. So like whenever she finds branches just out on a walk, if they're nice hard wood, I think the first step is like whittling them down to shape, sanding them, polishing them, staining them, and then she'll do like usually a leather wrap hilt, and then finishing them off. Yeah. So we recently bought a lathe, and we're going to be starting some wood turned wands as well, which seem a little more popular. We've seen them more often, so I don't know if that'll be as big of a niche as the found wands, but we want to offer both.
Yeah, makes sense. Give the people what they want. I mean, if you have an excuse to do something really cool, go ahead and do it. You know, my dad has a whole shop in his garage based around. He just likes to cut wood and like he likes to fiddle with stuff. He's not some master carpenter, but he's got a whole setup. You know, and he put that together over 20 years of like, I wonder if I know how to do blah blah blah, and he'll buy the tool and try it out.
That's kind of the first step. Yeah. Like, I bought a couple of leather journals that I really like the style of, and I'm like, if I knew where to buy leather, I would make these. And then I found a store that sold leather, so
there you go. And so
10 years later,
that's how you got into it. You just like, I want to do that, and you just did it.
Pretty much. I wanted a journal, and I go to the stores, and everything is just kind of cardboard and graphics, and it's like, this isn't the aesthetic I want. I want like, Lord of the Rings, old world kind of thing. And I actually happened to find a leather journal, and I'm like, well, this is literally just a piece of leather with holes punched in, and then the pages are bound, and I can make that.
And you
so
do.
I did.
Yeah.
And they've gotten more and more elaborate. Like the dragon and the kraken are like probably my top tier stuff, which is taken a lot of learning. And whenever I go, I shop at Tandy Leather Factory because it's local. Like they're an excellent source of information. If I'm like, I want to achieve this effect, like what do I need to do that? Or I saw this on Pinterest, how do I make one of those? And they're usually pretty good at helping you out there. So
that's awesome. And so like sites like Etsy and Pinterest and things like that, they've been inspirational for you? Other makers?
Go on. I try to avoid them as much as I can, just so that I feel like my ideas are more original. But I do go on them to see like, okay, well, I've got a bunch of leather left over. What can I make out of it? It just happens to not fit a journal shape or something, and
right.
That's kind of like whenever we have leftover scraps, I'm trying to find smaller and smaller projects so that I don't waste any of that leather. So, like I said, we've got little wire holders and hair barrettes and wand holsters so that you can hang them from your belt. All these little things that take up smaller bits of leather so that I don't have as much to waste.
Makes sense. It's very cool stuff. And you said, so you're into D&D. Are you part of any of the other sort of geekdom bases, or?
I'm getting into it, and like this is something that is starting to pop up on my Instagram, which is where I share all my new creations and events that we're going to. I just bought like a Proxon, or my wife bought me a Proxon for my last birthday, which is like a wire cutter for doing foam terrain.
I was going to ask, well, what is a Proxon? But it's okay, wire cutter, got it.
It's
okay.
It's just a tabletop wire cutter for doing cutting foam, and then this was one of the first projects I made, was just this little castle. Again, it's going to blur. I don't know how to get that blur section.
You'd have to turn the background off. It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's... Whoop. Now I'm just smashing my microphone, distracting people from your blur.
And that's one of the reasons I kept the name Firby Creations instead of like Leatherworks or something, is just because I like making leather stuff, but I don't intend to be tied down to it. I want to try carpentry projects or whatever floats my boat at the time. So
nice.
Leaves me room to expand.
Nice. So I mean, like Skyrim video game. So are you a video gamer as well?
A little bit. I wouldn't consider myself like a hardcore, streamer or anything. I like playing a game with a good story.
Yeah. Right.
So
I as well. I really enjoy games like Halo, where there's this really cool storyline, but there's not a lot of thought involved. You just run around shooting stuff, really. Like, I love that kind of game. Destiny, really cool, epic story, and you can get as involved or not as you want. And I really like that. Yeah, so...
The last big ones that I played were probably Jedi Fallen Order and Witcher 3. I know I'm usually a little late to the boat on those ones, but
fair.
But yeah, those were a couple of my big. Like, I like the open world stuff.
Right. Yeah. I really like the Destiny because you can go wherever you want. You can do whatever quests in whatever order, and games like that where you can engage or not with the lore as much as deeply as you like, right? And it's or you could just log on and shoot stuff because there's I've had a bad day and I want to kill things, so there's that too. So when you're not leatherworking, when you're not creating, what else do you and your wife what do you guys, are you movie people, are you TV people, are you like a little bit of video games, maybe some Dungeons and Dragons? What else do you guys get into?
Well, right now we've got 2 toddlers at home, so we're kind of full time, or we're parents, so we're in bed pretty early.
Yeah.
So, life before that, I don't know. We go to the movies and video games. She's a bit of a gamer too. I do the D&D. She doesn't like the D&D as much, but. It's been so long with recent world events since we actually had a game night. I miss them.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's game night now is like me in the basement with my Xbox. That's game night now. So
like my friends and I play on Roll20, and occasionally we'll do a Steam party game or something, but it's not quite the same.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't have that like. So. Let me ask you then. We're not going to take it in the political direction. We're not going to engage there. But did COVID affect your business in any way? I know some businesses had a bit of a positive push because it's stuff that people can do in their own homes, and others have struggled because of COVID and the pandemic and the lockdowns. Would you say you've struggled, excelled, or it has had a sort of a nil effect?
I mean, this has always kind of been a hobby business. I do it in my spare time when I'm not doing whatever else I'm doing, parenting mostly. But lately, I mean, we obviously booked fewer shows the last couple of years. Like we did maybe one a month the year before COVID hit. And then we finally did one just this last October for Comic-Con. So it was like a nice 2-year stretch before we did one. Yeah, that was a big push to get our online store started so that we might at least be able to make some sales over Christmas and the holidays. It hasn't affected it too much. Like, the biggest change has been on the weekends, my kids and my wife would usually get out of the house and I'd have a little bit of time to work on things. And when things shut down or were locked down, suddenly they had nowhere to go. So the hobby took a little bit of a sidebar.
Right. And so things like Comic-Con and where are the best places to showcase, aside from your website, which again, for the audio podcast people, because it is up on the screen, but Firby-creations.square.site. And so other than your website and you Comic-Con, for example, where can people kind of find you? And where do you like to show off your wares?
Well, given our aesthetic of like steampunk and gamer stuff, like the Skyrim journals, we did some with the Stark logo from Game of Thrones.
Nice.
We head towards those kind of events. So like Comic-Con was always a big one. KeyCon, FanQuest, or some local ones in Winnipeg. Summer we've done a couple at this Trout Forest Music Festival.
Oh, Rainbow
Trout.
Yeah. I almost wore the Rainbow Trout hoodie today. Trout Fest.
It's not Rainbow Trout.
Never mind.
Trout Fest, yeah. It's a different one. So I
forgot there was another trout-based event. Yes.
And then yeah, past years, I don't know if they're still doing it, but we did Swords and Sabers, the Pirate Ren Fair here in Winnipeg. Um, so
I
those ones kind of fit our niche.
I haven't heard of some of those. Like that's great because they're things that now the WPG can investigate and make sure that they get listed on the site so that others who haven't heard of them can. I'll touch base with you again and hear all those back and get in touch with the organizers. It'll be good.
Yeah, but there's other ones that we haven't looked into just because like as we were starting this is when our first child was born, so we haven't branched out into as many as we probably could. But like the Gimli Icelandic Festival, I think it was,
Right.
and then we've had people come up to us and say like, "Are you guys going to be at Cook's Creek or whatever?" I think it's a Renaissance fair. I haven't heard of that one before, so I haven't done my research yet. But so yeah, there's a lot of markets that I guess would fit our aesthetic. We just haven't found all of them yet. And again, that's primarily because this is just a hobby in my spare time.
Right.
With two toddlers under 5, it's just impossible to do that much.
I mean, you probably get a lot of exercise now, running around, chasing them.
Yeah.
I remember those days. We have a 7 and a 9-year-old, but it wasn't that long ago that they were unmanageable, crazy people.
Well, yeah, you take one of them to the Comic-Con and suddenly it's like, okay, I can't make a sale right now. I've got to go get my kid. I'll be right back.
Yeah. You keep looking. I'll be right back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Security, grab that kid. Yeah. So, I really love the aesthetic of what you got going on. Was that the castle you built? Was that a dice tower or just?
This one is just a modular play thing. Like each level comes off, and you can just play on the one underneath it. I do plan on making a couple of dice towers out of the same thing. They're just iced tea containers or hot chocolate. Big cardboard tins, and I just glue the
not anymore.
Glue the foam onto it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And again, this was kind of inspired from another local maker I follow on YouTube. I don't remember his last name. It's Jeremy from Black Magic Crafts.
Black Magic Crafts. So shout out
a lot
to Jeremy.
Yeah,
Black Magic Crafts.
I mean, I follow him. I don't think he knows me yet, but maybe someday if he's looking for a new D&D journal.
Right.
But he has an entire tutorial series on how to make these things, and his whole thing is bringing people into the hobby. So it was a great start to me, and inspired my creations, and yeah.
That's awesome. And so your wife got into wand making because you were into crafting, or was she into Harry Potter and then kind of sort of joined you in the crafting, or how did she get into it? Not that I want you to speak for her necessarily.
It was kind of the second one. She was a big Harry Potter fan, and she was making wands before we met, I think. And then when I had these on and was doing a craft sale, she's like, "Well, I can make some stuff that fits that aesthetic." So,
nice.
Yeah, she bashed out about 20 wands, and they sold out the very first fair we took them to. So
nice. Yeah, they're very cool,
well,
and decent prices.
Popular, let's add them to the list. Yeah.
And for those listening, what's the range of prices for the wands? I remember them being decent.
Let me think. I think the wands are 15 to 20. And then we have a few accessories. Like we've sold wand stands, so you can just display them on your shelf, or wand holsters, so you can hang them on your belt if you're getting in costume or anything like that. So 15 to 20, 30 if you get the accessories, something like that.
Right. And so I don't know if you heard that, but this is very reasonably priced for some very cool handmade crafts. I highly recommend checking out the website. Again, Firby-Creations.square.site. They're making some very cool things right here in Winnipeg. And they're, yeah, I mean, it's one thing to go to some website and order it and, is it, who am I supporting? Who knows, right? But these guys are local. They're here. I've physically met this man, socially distanced, of course, while wearing masks at a con. Yeah, just for the record. And I really think that more people should discover exactly what it is that you guys are doing. I'm going to try and bring up the site just so we can see it. Sorry. So I should have had this prepped to begin with, but let's see if it works. Maybe not. It says back to home page. Why does it say that? 404, not found. Never mind. I must have punched it in incorrectly. Oh yeah, I didn't give it the Furby. Oh yeah, you need an S. There you go.
It's definitely not the easiest name or website to remember. There's more punctuation and more hyphens and dots than I'd like.
But I mean, if it works, it works. I got it to load. How do you like that? There you go. Now the folks can see it on the actual site itself. So we're gonna scroll down. Can I do that? Apparently I cannot. It won't let me scroll, but you can see the top there, all the leather bindings. You see the Kraken, the leather bracers, a notebook, one of the wands. Very, very cool stuff. And is there something that you haven't made yet, but you want to make? You just haven't either figured out how to do it or where to source the materials or something to that effect? Is there something that you would really love to create?
There's definitely projects on my to-do list. I think the biggest one would be like leather armor and wearable costume pieces. I've got a pair of bracers and I've had some cuffs up on the website before. So that's definitely an area I want to expand into and do more, pauldrons and greaves and bracers and again, like going on Pinterest for inspiration. I've seen people doing masks and full sets of armor, and I'm like, that's intense, but that'll be the dream.
Yeah. And it's funny. There's a huge market for that. I should assuming you haven't already, but I should put you in touch. We have some guests coming next week, I think. I can't remember if they're next week. Now I have to look. But these fellas, they run a LARP society. Misthaven is their guild name, but it's part of the Underworld LARP banner. And these guys, they go out for the weekend and they fully dress up in costume and stay in character, and they live that life. And a lot of what you make, the wands, the notebooks, and everything, like, it fits their aesthetic just perfectly. And a lot of them make and or source from friends the making of custom armor and things like that. And I really feel like maybe that might be a cool little collaboration for you guys. That might be really cool.
Yeah.
A nice way for you to sort of boost, what you're doing and your visibility. And maybe that Jeremy fella from Black Magic Crafts
yeah.
But yeah. So Black Magic Crafts, maybe he'll get in touch with you at some point, So I don't know. There's just so much cool stuff in that world. I'd like to see more connectivity. Pardon me. I apologize.
It definitely seems to be like expanding too. I know, like my group plays Pathfinder, which I think is D&D 3.0 5. I don't really know the iterations. I've only played Pathfinder. So, but my sister started playing D&D 5e, and she dragged my other sister into it, and I'm like, why? You guys never played this when you lived in Winnipeg. Why? What the heck? But, so
I'm a 5th edition guy. I'm a 5th edition guy for sure. So there's just so much cool stuff there. But yeah, I totally get. There's so many people that are very into Pathfinder, and that's another great role playing game for those that are, there's a lot to learn about how the games work and how they're different from each other, and the mechanics are different. And
like I hear 5th edition is supposed to be a lot more quicker to pick up, I guess, or
much easier to learn for noobs, for sure. More accessible.
I feel like I should really be playing that one, because I've been playing Pathfinder for, I don't know, maybe a decade or more at this point, and I still feel like I have to look up every single rule for every spell. Like, does this one affect me or everybody? How long does it take? And so much math. I don't want to do the math.
Well, I mean, there's websites now that you can do that. Not that they sponsor, but I'll give them a little bit of a shout out. D&D Beyond, look them up. They track all your stuff. You tell them, what edition you're using and what books you're using out of, and it allows you to build characters using those options. You can also buy the digital version of all of the books, and then they're saved for you, and everything is hyperlinked. Like, it's insane.
That would be really good. My Pathfinder book is kind of falling to tatters now, so eventually I'll probably rebind it in leather. But
there you go, you bind it yourself. But then, but if you wanted a digital version, like, that's a site that they literally copy word for word everything over, but they it involves this skill. You click on that skill, it takes you to that skill, and it tells you everything about that skill and all the things that are associated with it. If there's materials required for whatever spell, you click on that, it tells you what the material's all about, where to get it, Like, it's very, very easy to use. There's an app on your phone that makes it super accessible. Again, they do not sponsor me, but they should. But I really found that they made it very easy for people who are new to get over that hurdle of, like, how do I do the math? my apologies again. I'm in a basement in Winnipeg. It's dry. It's only -5 today, which is like 30 degrees warmer than it was yesterday. So that's fine.
It's such a big shift.
Yeah. So we're getting some snow as a result, but I'm happy to be in my basement versus out on the roads. How do you like that? So, do you go out to events? When someone can watch the old toddlers, do you and your wife manage to get out for date nights? I mean, the pandemic is a whole other level of constriction, but
it's been a while. So
when you guys go out, what kind of stuff do you guys are you pub people? Are you karaoke people? Are you let's go see a band people?
Definitely not karaoke people.
Okay, fair.
I tried it. I didn't like it.
No, hey, it's not for everyone. That's fine.
No.
Yeah, but are you more like let's go see a band?
Probably more just movie people.
Yeah.
With like the big into the like. Well, I'm probably more into it than she is, but big Marvel fans. So we like seeing the new blockbuster that's coming out, and lately it's been nice. They're getting all the shows on Disney Plus, so we don't have to go anywhere.
I'm not caught up. I was perfectly caught up right up until WandaVision started, and then I didn't watch WandaVision yet, and so I refuse. I have a thing. I cannot watch movies out of order. I can't.
Yeah.
And so I've seen everything up to when WandaVision started and nothing since. So I need to go back and pick that back up because I'm a huge MCU fan, and I really got to get back into that. So, do you do any?
What is it? WandaVision, Loki, and Hawkeye. They're very different. Falcon
And there's
and the Winter
Falcon
Soldier.
and the Winter Soldier.
That was after WandaVision, right?
Right. WandaVision was the first show.
Yeah. No, I was really happy with all of them. Like very different tones. Obviously, they've got different subject matter, but like WandaVision and Loki, especially setting up the next Doctor Strange movie. So you got to get on that before that shows up.
Yeah.
I think we haven't been to the movies at all since the pandemic hit. The one that I was really considering it was the Spider-Man movie. The
Far From Home.
What is it?
No Way Home.
Far From Home. No Way Home.
No Way Home is the third one.
Whichever the last one is.
No Way Home. Yeah.
Yeah. Still haven't seen it, but I was like, oh, if I was gonna go out to a theater during a pandemic, that would be the one.
Yeah.
So
fair enough. And it's so hard because I'm not caught up to avoid all the spoilers. Like I'll be scrolling through TikTok and I'll see somebody doing cosplay as Spider-Man. Nope. Just in case. Like it's so hard.
I've already seen a couple of clips that were like spoilers, and they're not spoilers I wasn't expecting. There's too much rumors that you just eventually it permeates, right? And I'm like, okay, exactly. I heard that this might be a thing, and well, there it is. Okay, it's confirmed. But still want to see the movie. It looks great.
Oh, of course. And there's going to be a whole bunch of action and fun stuff, and the way the story progresses really matters because each story progression affects not just what's coming, but sometimes it affects what's already happened. Because there's time travel in the MCU, so like you never know how it's gonna.
They've opened up that can of worms, yeah.
That's a whole other.
Even the animated the What If series looks like it might tie into some of the movies. If you've seen the trailer for Doctor Strange, I'm like, is that what I think it is? And so it's.
Yeah, there's no shortage of like crazy theories out there about what's going on there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's and it's so hard to catch up if you fall behind.
Oh, right.
At the moment, it's like as long as we can just stay with it as they're coming out, it's fine. But I imagine like, what is it going to be for my kid who's like 4 years old right now? If he wants to watch the Spider-Man movie, I'm like, kid, you've got like 7 movies now, and like an entire history of other animated. Like you'll never catch up.
Now, and here's the frustrating part. If you go on Disney Plus, and again, they don't sponsor us, just for the record. But if you go there, they have the Marvel movie universe, but just the movies in phase order. So the order they were released. But they don't have it set up in a way where you can watch it in chronological order. Start with the first Avenger, and then the next one would be Captain Marvel because it happens
right
like chronologically. Yeah. But then there's also the show. So then like after Captain Marvel, there's Agent Carter, and there's right. So there's all these other shows that are like a big deal, and they make changes to the story. And then when do you watch which episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to get up to where Winter Soldier is, and then go from there. And then there's the introduction of Iron Man, and I like the chronological, but there's no way on Disney Plus to follow along that way. Yeah, and I think there should be.
You can usually find those roadmaps somewhere on the internet. Like they'll tell you.
Oh yeah, there's a Google. I like Tracked TV, so TRAKT.TV. Again, they don't sponsor us, but so if you go there, you can punch in what you watched, and it tracks all that. Like I'm on this episode of whatever TV series, for example, and so yeah, but. For the MCU, there's people who have created custom lists of chronological order for the MCU, and it's very, very helpful to go through that, and then but then you have to manually source it, which is fine. But I really believe that Disney Plus is missing an opportunity to set themselves up for people just binge watching their service by creating a chronological order.
I mean, I had a similar discussion with this every time somebody asks me what order should they watch the Star Wars movies in if they've never seen Star Wars. And
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
I don't. I'll hijack the rest of this conversation if we get onto Star Wars. Big Star Wars.
But you should start making leather lightsabers. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I found this stick and made a lightsaber. That's more your wife's bag, so we'll leave that for her.
Well, I've seen some like leather, like Mandalorian belts or something for. But
right. And if you left the creations, you stepped away from the leatherwork, you could make Mandalorian gear. You don't know.
I did. When the Mandalorian show first came out, it was like, okay, I've got enough time till Halloween. Maybe I can start a new do foam making stuff. I've never done that before, but I'll bet I could learn and make a costume. I did because I have kids now, so
make costumes for them. That'd be way less material.
The amount of times. Well, yeah, when she was born, she got somebody gifted us a little, one of those knitted Yoda hat ears and a diaper set. So I'm like, well, that's perfect. She'll be the child.
Show me the child.
Yeah.
No, Star Wars is a whole other thing where, again, like you said, what order do you watch it in? And now there's, Boba Fett.
And it's worse because you've got 9 movies plus 2 spin-off movies,
right?
But then you've also got the TV shows, which I mean, if you like the movies or you're mildly impressed with the movies, like as a big Star Wars fan, The Mandalorian and Boba Fett, I'm very happy with what they're doing, and they're bringing in characters from the Clone Wars cartoon series and Rebels the cartoon series, and suddenly you've got with those 2 shows you've got 9 seasons, 10, 11 seasons of.
There's another Star Wars series that my kids watch. It's a cartoon, not CGI. What is it called? Star Wars Resistance?
I don't know. That one, I think it's still CGI, but it looks more 2D style.
Yeah, I think that's the one I'm thinking of. But they love it. But it's very designed for kids. So like if you're an adult and hardcore Star Wars fan, that's something you would certainly sort of go to, because you like all the lore and it's a side story and it's this whole other group of people, right? But I think the more adult, like what was it? You just said it, and now it's gone.
Rebels or Clone Wars?
Rebels and Clone Wars are more like, okay, kids can watch, but they're designed for people who are Star Wars fans.
Yeah, like you'll still get a lot out of it. Like I mean, and it's almost going to become required viewing as well. Like they've got one of the new series is going to be Star Wars Ahsoka. And like Ahsoka made an appearance in The Mandalorian, but she first appeared in the Clone Wars and went through that series and into Rebels. So like if you want her entire history, you're gonna have to watch all that.
Right? Like, and that's the thing. What's canon and what isn't?
Well, I'm pretty sure it's all considered canon at this point.
For the Star Wars universe, I think, yeah.
I mean, before 7, 8, and 9, they did they had all the expanded universe stuff was mostly novels, graphic novels, and video games.
Yeah.
And all of that was still like, if it wasn't canon, it was still continuity. There are video game characters from like the very first Star Wars first-person shooter game, Dark Forces, where you play Kyle Katarn. And then if you're reading like the New Jedi Order, which takes place 30 years after Return of the Jedi, Jedi Master Kyle Katarn is mentioned. I'm like, oh my God, that's the guy I played in the video games in the 90s. That's so cool.
Star Wars has done a very good job of keeping that content together. Whereas
Mhm.
projects like the DC film universe is a mess. It is a nightmare. Right?
yeah,
Like
like
this
we're not
film
even gonna
flopped. We're
try.
not gonna keep that. Let's do it again, So
It's weird. Like you've got Star Wars, which they did very rigidly and kept everything in there, so everything's no matter what author or writer or animator is doing something, it all kind of flows together. Or there's stuff like what you just mentioned, the
DCEU.
DC, where it's kind of more of a Doctor Who approach, where it's like, you know what? I don't care what we said last week. The last of the Daleks. No, there's an entire fleet of them. Like they just.
Yeah.
How many times
they'll
have we
write
seen
their
this
way
guy
around
die?
it.
He's back again. It doesn't matter. It's just whatever seems like a good show that time. And
Yeah.
I don't know. Doctor Who has done a very good job of like, it doesn't matter the ridiculousness or like the having him pop up again and like, no, you can't change time except when we always change time.
Right.
And it works for them. That's kind of their thing.
It's ridiculous. And what I really like, it's very smart to have started with a character that literally doesn't die, but when they die, they just become a new actor. Like from a filmmaking perspective, like that's brilliant. Like, oh, this actor's giving us trouble. Well, kill him. We'll get a new doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's just you want more money. Out you go.
Yeah. Do you watch Doctor Who? Are you a Whovian or I don't know what the hell?
That was like we were definitely Whovians. We never got caught up after what was it, the new Jodie
Whittaker?
Whittaker? Yeah. We watched like I think the first season she was in, and then I don't know, maybe that was around the time second baby was born, so just kind of lost track. Haven't had a chance to get back into it yet.
And every time you have a kid, it's like quadrupling how long it takes to do stuff. It's not doubling. Like when I had a kid, one kid it takes twice as long to do everything. When you have a second kid, it takes 4 times as long to do like they exponentially stack.
We finally worked out the first kid's bedtime schedule, but this one's an hour behind. Oh, okay, fine.
Yeah, good luck with that.
And like my wife and I have very different schedules as well. Like she's usually up in the morning, and I tend to be more of a night owl, so like I don't go to bed as early as I should.
Yeah.
And whereas she's like, you know what, I'm done. I'm out. I'm going to bed. It's like 9:30, so. We have a very small window of like, do you want to watch a show? We get one choice tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that.
So,
I feel that. Because I did 21 years in the restaurant industry, so my schedule is like sleep happens at 3 a.m. Let's wake up at noon. And my kids are like, I'm up and it's 7. And I'm like, that's not cool, but here we are.
7? Oh, your kids sleep in.
Well, 7 and 9 years old, right? So.
Right. Yeah.
They sleep a little better.
My 4-year-old is still up like 5:30 to 6, so it's fun.
Gross. No, thank you. You can have that. I don't want to go back and live that again. Nope. But so I don't know. I enjoyed talking to you today. I think the things you make very cool. Again, I want to point out to everybody, Firby-Creations.square.site, and you can also follow him on Instagram, which is at Firby_Creations, and then on Facebook it's just Firby Creations, all one word, no spaces, underscores, dashes, nothing. So
I would even say if you're going to follow one of those, follow Instagram. That's where we post most of our stuff, and then it just goes to Facebook. But I as a local maker, I either haven't figured out Facebook's shop side of things, or it just doesn't work for me. So
that has been the experience of many people I have spoken to. So don't feel like you're all alone there.
It is a very weird thing. Like, I can put all this stuff up on Instagram on my Square site, but as soon as I try to load it onto Facebook, like half of the items are like held or won't be submitted because some word choice is like, you can't sell that. You said alligator. I'm like, it's an alligator print. what do you want me to call it?
Yeah, like you can't sell cougar print skirts because
Well, yeah,
it's like,
have
did
something
you
like
murder a
can't-
cougar for this?
Yeah, I'm like, no, it's clearly fake. I mean, it's leather. You can't sell leather. Leather was, but I never mentioned cow, so I don't know.
Would
So,
you
yeah,
like
I
this
don't-
dead
well-
cow skin book?
Yeah, sounds so much more appealing now.
Right? I mean, I want 6. So yeah, that's a tough one. But so go follow this man. And if you're into geekdom, like this is there's some he makes some really cool stuff. Do you do commissions? Like if somebody says like I want the Skyrim book, but I want something special done to it or whatever, or they have their whole own idea, is that something you'll do?
It'll depend on the commission, but I'm open to it. If it's something I'm familiar with doing, like if you wanted a special custom journal, no problem. I've got enough experience making journals that I can probably do that with little difficulty.
Right.
I've had like requests where it's like, do you make, dog collars, guitar straps, whips? And I'm like, I have never made one before, so I have no idea how long it would take and how much it would cost.
Now, I'm curious how long it takes a leather worker to get asked some sort of BDSM question. Oh, you work with leather. Well, have I got a question for you? I wonder how quickly that happens.
It didn't seem to take very long at all. I've only been doing shows, like I think we've done 4 Comic-Cons, so that was probably like within the space of 5 years.
Right.
And with all the other craft shows we've done, let's say 20 to 30 shows, and I feel like it was pretty quick. Like within the first 10 shows, that somebody was asking me like, do you do any kind of straps or
fun bedroom
whips?
stuff? Yeah.
And like whip, like an Indiana Jones whip? I don't know. No, it's like no, like just a little whip. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Can you be more clear? Completely naive.
Google it with your safe search off. You'll find it. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I figure like the people connecting that dot probably happens faster than people calling someone a Hitler in a YouTube comment section. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that happens very fast. So, but anyway, we're not going to get into yours and your wife and how much leather stuff you have of your own. But thank you very much. I really, really appreciate you being here. Is there anything that you want the people to know before we say goodbye? Other than Star Wars is awesome, your leatherwork is dope, your wife makes really cool wands, you now have a lathe, and you're open to commissions.
We have a lathe, we have a Proxon, so if you want D&D terrain, I'd be very interested in commissions for that. Or a friend of mine, my GM actually commissioned me to do some miniature painting. So yeah, like as much as I'm like, well, I don't do a lot of commissions, but if you have a project and it looks like something I already do, your chances are good. So yeah, I'm always open to being asked.
Nice. Okay. So yeah, that's really cool. It hadn't occurred to me that you can make like a game board.
Maybe, yeah.
Interesting. All right. Okay. Because you have. Anyway, that's I play D&D, so I'm like, oh, that would be very useful. Anyway, so get at this man again. Instagram Firby_Creations. Make sure you put the S. Don't do what I did and miss the S, because the website won't come up.
Furby with an FIR.
FIRBY_Creations.
In Winnipeg, there's a Firby Street, and it's spelled differently. So
right. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Assume the one.
Yeah, the toy from the '90s or whatever. You don't want that. That's
not those.
No. So, Firby, FIRBY. very important distinction. So I want to thank the man himself, Mr. James Furby, for joining me here on the Winterpeg Report. Next week, I forget, I should know these things and sound more professional when I do them, but there's also like, why? But next week, oh yeah, okay, I just double checked. It is the fellas from the Misthaven Guild, which is a live action role play group that works under the Underworld rule set, and their guild is called Misthaven. So we'll be talking to them. That's Colton Day and Daniel Johnston. So they will be my guests next week. Thank you so much for listening. And again, hit us up on all those socials. The WPG Magazine everywhere. The WPG Magazine on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, and TikTok. Again, there's nothing on the TikTok yet, but you can certainly follow and do all that stuff. And hit us up on the WPG talk line. Area code is important in Winnipeg. 431-800-4555. Email podcasts at thewpg.ca if you have any comments, questions, if you'd like to be a guest, if you know that there's somebody that should be a guest, let me know. I would be very interested. So, thank you once again. Last time, thank you to Mr. James Furby for being with us today. Have a great day, everybody.